Midweek update. I am joined by a guy, Mark Ellinger. You might know him from TV, might know him from radio, but you really would know him if you've ever heard of a Republican candidate that's ever ran for any major office. He's pretty much their lawyer. So thank you so much for making the time. It is interesting. Law and politics have intersected more this cycle maybe than ever before.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It really is one of those times where you see the dramatic overlap. In the past, it's been really kind of separate, aside from the backroom stuff. Now it's all out front. You see it all the time.
Let me just start with the top thing. My gut is there were some folks that were just sort of tired of Trump. I mean, even if you love Trump, there's some drama around Trump, right? You can blame it on other people started it, but there's always a hue in the background of drama. And I think some folks were like, ugh, and they started arresting him every 3 days just for, I honestly don't even know what they arrested him for, if you know the truth. Now they convict him. I want to talk about the legal part of it, but what I just think it's folks' gut. They feel like it ain't right.
Yeah, I think you've seen that. You saw that you had a primary going in the Republican Party. President was not in the primary officially at that point. Other people seem to be surging, getting a lot of lead, a lot of positive press, and then that first indictment dropped. Mm-hmm. And it's as if overnight everybody said, "Wait a second, they really are weaponizing government against our guy." And then the next indictment, then the next indictment,
it ain't right.
Yeah, and Trump has said, and I think it's really an accurate statement, if you can do that to him, what's stopping him from doing it to everybody?
Well, the truth is they have done it to a bunch of people. You look at that guy in Virginia, that governor, they just took him out. The federal government just tapped him. Blagojevich. Yep. I mean, honestly, did he do something so illegal? I think it's true. These tough on crime Republicans, these conservative Republicans, have created a police state, and they can't control it anymore.
Yeah, and what's happened with what we've developed on a federal level side is now the Democrats have the keys, and they have no compunction about using it. They have always viewed
laws that Republicans passed being tough on crime. The hammer that they're hitting people with is a hammer the Republicans made and handed to them.
I think that's right. I think the reason Republicans passed some of those laws for meritorious reasons at the time, but they also never figured that the other side would weaponize them and take them to the next step, which is, Democrats believe in being in power. They don't believe in ideas as much as they believe in power. They understand that if you're not in charge of government, you don't move government. So they want to be in charge. And this is, as you built the police state, as you built the censorship state, it's the Democrats that want to use it because it protects the government, which is what they care most about.
Yeah, but there's a lot of folks. Like if you're a Christian conservative, let's be honest, Donald Trump is not a Christian conservative. You support him because you want power. You want your party to be in power.
I think a lot of Christian conservatives, particularly the first time around and the second time around in 16 and 20, supported Trump on the basis of the Supreme Court picks. Roe versus Wade was a huge issue, and Christian conservatives cared a lot.
But when he starts talking about 2 Corinthians and stuff, I mean, I'm sorry, you'd have to be wildly stupid to think Donald Trump is a Christian conservative.
Yeah, I mean, he's not. I don't think anybody would define him as a Christian conservative. Nobody would. But Christian conservatives follow him and support him because
they want power.
Well, because they want to change policy. They wanted to change Roe versus Wade. Sometimes you have to be careful what you want, but they want to do it to change policy. I think that's the difference generically between Republicans and Democrats on a national level.
Want power so they could nominate Supreme Court judges to make abortion legal again?
They want power to nominate Supreme Court judges to let the federal government be in charge of everything. That's what they want. They care less about Roe versus Wade being overturned, except that it's a great political issue, than they do about the Chevron doctrine, which is the
what is that? Now, I don't know what that is.
So it's a case that'll come down in the next day or two from the Supreme Court, and it's when Congress writes a kind of open-ended law, then an administrative agency goes in and interprets it. And over the years, the federal agencies have interpreted everything. I mean, there's the joke that there's 5,000 crimes that you can commit in a single day, and it's almost all because it's not because statutes say they're crimes, it's because agencies have created crimes. And that's that Chevron doctrine. It's deference to a regulatory agency. And the Supreme Court's been chipping away at it, and hopefully we'll get rid of it. That's a much more dangerous knock against Democrats than Roe versus Wade or Murphy versus Missouri, which got dismissed today, or any of those cases.
You just can't say you're a conservative and say you need all the things that are illegal. They make more stuff illegal every damn day in Jeff City. It's the damnedest thing. They'll look at you straight in the eye and say, I'm a conservative, but here's the 18 laws I want to pass that makes 52 things illegal. Like, at what point do you just want to leave people the hell alone?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a libertarian streak that's starting to come out. You see a little bit more of people saying, look, let people kind of live their own lives. It's, let's pass laws that say I can't hurt you.
Sure.
If I want to hurt myself, that's being stupid. I've always thought
America.
I always thought seatbelt laws were dumb because they don't save anybody else.
It's your business if I want to wear a seatbelt. It ain't the government's business.
And I wear a seatbelt because I want to be safe, and I've been in a car accident, and I know the value of it. But if I don't want to wear a seatbelt, that's going to be my fault, my problem if something occurs.
To me, it comes down to this. If you want to wear a seat. Now, I think, to me, where they cross that line is, what about a car seat for a kid? I think that's where you get into, you're telling people how to run their lives. You're very liberal. You're bossing them around. But now that starts to get somewhat justifiable.
Well, you're protecting another person's life.
Yeah.
And that, I think government does have some role in that and should have.
That's where the abortion debate comes down, right? It's not, do you have the right to do what you want with your body? It's, do you think you're harming another person or not?
And it's a belief issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's religion. When does life begin? If life begins at conception, it's really hard to argue for abortion. If life begins at viability or birth, if that's your religious belief, then who really cares about early term abortion?
I'm the worst person to talk about birth control or any of that stuff. I'm not my thing. But I do think there's some interesting nuance when you get into I'm not even sure, IVF maybe.
IVF.
And different parts of, you say, well, when does life begin? Some scientists can tell you, well, you think this is okay. We'd all say, yeah, birth control is fine. Okay, well then, conception, here we go. There's some really, science has made more information to where it really creates an interesting nuance on some of those laws.
And politics, there's an easy political solution. We all know it. I mean, you set a ban at 15 weeks-ish. You make exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. And politically, it's an 80% winner or 75% winner, and everybody's happy. The theory that I've always thought is medicine will eventually fix a lot of it, because eventually medicine will get better and better and better. That's why Roe versus Wade, set it at 23 weeks, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a nephew who was born at 20 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And was in neonatal intensive care for, I don't know, months, but is a college student today and is totally normal and fine and plays sports and does everything. So, medicine will fix viability. We're never going to get medicine to fix anything all the way back to the beginning.
Sure.
But, I think if take the political win and go.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think, a lot of Republicans won primaries on abortion. Mm-hmm. I would even argue back in the day, they won general elections on abortion. I think Jeffco is read today probably because of maybe abortion more than guns.
Yeah. I mean, in the 90s, when that trend really started, Jefferson County really made that change because of abortion and guns.
But I would actually,
Trumps,
I would usually, the guns and abortion, but I think abortion in some of those places was more important in flipping those districts. But now you're going to see the old Betty Sims Republican area is no longer Republican. Now I wonder if you're going to see the Eric Schmidt area of the state Senate, the old state Senate district that Schmidt had. I think that you're going to see an interesting debate. The Republican is not where the majority is. Whoever wins that primary will be wanting to not talk about abortion. The Democrat will be wanting to talk about abortion.
Yeah, and look, they're going to do that on a national level, not just, they're going to do it on a statewide level. That's going to be the primary issue that Democrats are going to use. It's effective. Now, we'll see how effective it is in the general election. It hasn't been tried in that yet.
I think your point would be, if they had a reasonable thing they could do, say, okay, first trimester, you can have an abortion, exceptions, rape-ins, whatever. Reasonable people come up with a reasonable law. You just can't be reasonable about abortion. Nobody can.
It's a belief system.
Yeah.
And it's what's the old argument? Never argue religion.
That's a fact.
That's what it really is.
Well,
it's a religious issue.
I think it's part of the pro-life people. Not everything's about abortion. I mean, everything. Yeah. A congressional district's about abortion. It seems like when abortion was actually banned, then everything became somehow about abortion. That doesn't exist. And I think what happened is they got too far. I think the people that passed that law had I don't think Mike Parson thought Roe versus Wade to be overturned when he signed that law.
And I think that's where all those laws were passed, and they had the triggers on the theory that, look what we're doing for our base, our people love it. It's never going to happen, so who cares?
I think it's going to cost him 5 House seats. It may cost him a Senate seat.
Maybe 2 Senate seats.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be, it will have an impact in the suburbs.
What do you?
It
So
will
I've
have an
heard
impact.
Republicans are like, look, even not quietly, even publicly, but 2 or 3%, it's going to at least be that. In other states, Texas, Ohio, kind of look at some of the demographics. I saw 3D Doug Beck, not flat Doug Beck. He was thinking more like 7 to 9. Where do you think the average bump comes in for a Democrat because of this issue being on the November ballot?
Probably somewhere around 3 or 4 points, depending on where it's at. In Columbia, a bastion of liberalism, it's probably more points because it peels people off.
But
in the suburbs, it's more points. You get out in the rural areas, it really doesn't.
The Northland kind of out through Independence down to Belton, and then do St. Charles City loop down to Kirkwood. I think that's probably 4 or 5 points.
That's where it'll have the biggest impact.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think that's the reason you see Republicans, want to talk about immigration. I mean, that's become the hot topic that everybody goes to because, it polls at much higher as an issue that most people care about. Abortion polls lower, but it polls really strongly with that one segment of people, and it's a driving issue. And putting it on the ballot makes a difference. Florida is going to have it on the ballot, and Florida is viewed as a confidently red state now. There are people that are nervous in Florida as to what the impact will be because that measure is going to be on the ballot and it can change the demographics.
Well, and I've looked back. I was talking today with some folks. You look back and right to work, but it was on the August ballot. Mm-hmm. Minimum wage, all these things that passed by a large margin. Nobody remembered right to work in November. We're talking about David Greger running that state Senate race. He voted for right to work, and it got shoved back hard in his district, and they voted for him overwhelmingly in November.
Right.
It was an important issue. It was off. I think it's going to be different. The differentiator may be it's on the same ballot. You're showing up to vote for it.
Same ballot and in those close districts.
Yeah.
And, you're going to get turnout. There's going to be a segment of voters that will turn out for that. The ballot's going to be long.
Oh.
And that measures towards the end of the ballot. So there's going to be a lot of votes that are going to get cast at the top before they flip the page and get to the ballot measures.
There's some advantages if you're a state rep. If you're running for state representative on the Democrat side in St. Louis, all the county offices we all vote for, even if nobody runs in Cole County, you have to go. You at least have to read that ballot. A ballot in St. Louis is substantially shorter. You have a county councilman, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
The assessor's on, but I don't remember if the assessor's on.
This is an assessor year, I think.
Okay, so Pages next cycle. So you have a county council member, half of them do, and one county office holder. Then you skip right down to your state rep. I mean, you are down to the lengthy ballot measures. So I think it's interesting in a lot of these places where the swing areas are charter counties.
Yeah.
So the ballot is long, but it won't be as long for them.
I think that's really true. And in St. Louis County, it's going to have the biggest impact because it will go straight to your senator, to your state rep, and then to the ballot measures.
How many people do we have signs of that you've worked for? You've done some stuff for Lincoln, Schmidt. I got Bailey down here.
Yeah.
Somebody give me a Bailey sign. Kit.
Parson.
Parson.
Yeah,
Did you do anything for Wendell ever?
I did.
Did a lot. Check the Wendell.
Go way back
box.
on the Wendell times. There's one I have.
You got a Roy Blunt thing back here somewhere.
It's been fun to be involved in politics. I grew up in it to start with.
But I have the gift. When I interviewed the governor, I was talking about this. I had someone I want to thank for sending me this Margaret Kelly bumper sticker and a stack of bumper stickers. I'm going to call this one out, Howard, and I'm going to give this to Mark because he was the person that was sort of back before we had statewide. When we had none, we had Margaret Kelly, the state auditor, and Mark worked for. I wanted to give that to you.
Thank you.
And I was
Those remind me of good times.
She was the only Republican back in the day. I found this is an old button someone sent me. It's the whole ticket. It has Judge Wolf on there, Holden, Carnahan, Nixon. It's got Dukakis and Vinson, the whole 88 ticket from back in the day. That would have been before. When did Margaret? She elected in 92?
No, Margaret came into office in 84. She was appointed by Kit Bond. 88, that's an interesting button you got there because that was a wipeout for Democrats except for Mel Carnahan.
Yep. He hung on.
Yep, he hung on.
Nixon went down hard in the U.S. Senate race. Judge Wolf went down.
Yep.
He found some success.
And then that, in 92, which was the Clinton year, but that was also the year where the Blunt and Webster issue kind of really came to the fore, and Bill Webster got indicted or was under investigation at least. I think he got indicted before the election, and it was a bloodbath. And Margaret, being the auditor, the best part about being the auditor is
You're
you're running the off
cycle,
year.
yep.
So
Off cycle.
she ended up being the only one. And I got my start because she didn't want to have Jay Nixon be her lawyer.
I got to thank buddy Tom from South County, St. Louis. This isn't a stein. This is a chalice. It's Das Boot is the name of it. You take it big swig. Call it the chalice of knowledge today. Do you think, I always felt like Missouri should put their gubernatorial election in the midterm. Anything we can do to separate us from national trends, I think is a wonderful thing.
You know, I think this is the tradition we've developed. We're used to it. I think Missourians expect it. I don't know that you really want to change it.
To build any wall you can build to keep the national shit out of Missouri.
I mean, if you want to do that, run like Virginia does, run in like 2020, you know,
even better.
25 or 27 when there's no other races and you can be all on your own.
Even better.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I mean, then you focus totally on your state. There's no national issue that comes into it. I mean, you can run on some national issues, but it doesn't get swallowed. You know, Missouri is now on a statewide level pretty comfortably Republican currently. I always tell people, be careful, which, you know, like with initiative petition reform, be careful about that because one day we'll be out of power.
Yeah.
But it's probably not in the immediate future that that's going to occur. So, you know, a presidential race is probably not going to have a whole lot of impact on who wins on a statewide level in Missouri.
I disagree with that. It used to not. You look at Trump and the people he brought in. He reelected Caleb Rowden. He elected him in 2016 because Trump just, you can think what you want about Columbia. Trump ran very strong in that district, stronger than most Republicans.
Trump in 2016 brought Roy Blunt across the finish line.
100%.
100%.
So and look, you're gonna find Obama in 08 ran very strong here, almost won, and carried a slate of Democrats in with him. I think the national mood touches more, but I got to talk about where you're the problem here.
Joe Biden, if he, you know, has a magnificent campaign, or Gavin Newsom is, you know, gets substituted in for Biden after the debate tomorrow night. You know, if they run a magnificent campaign, the odds are the Republican nominees are still going to be elected on a statewide basis in Missouri for the state offices.
Yes, but it will.
It could change the margin.
I think Trump's just Trump. But if Joe Biden has a moment of senility in a debate, especially one closer to the election, it just looks like he's just physically not up to being president. That'll affect the ticket in this state.
Yeah, it'll make a bigger margin for Republicans. Much the way abortion will make a smaller margin for Republicans.
I truly don't think much about Trump. I mean, what could you possibly do to Trump to knock him down? And he just keeps coming. I mean, I think people know what they think of Trump. It's baked in. Now, would you get out and vote for him if you have, you know, if your kid's sick at home, you're going to leave your kid at home for a half hour to vote, that kind of stuff. Who knows? But what folks think of Trump ain't changing. But I think people could think Biden is too diminished to do this.
And we see a lot in the polling.
Now we need, first thing, the Courtyard by Marriott, the absolute top hotel in Jeff City. If you're bringing your kin folks to town, you come for a meeting. If you're coming to hire Mark because you're going to run for governor in 4 years, stay at the Courtyard by Marriott. And if you're listening to this up in the great Northwest, you're listening to us on United Fiber with the United Electric Co-op, the best rural broadband in the state. Let's talk about where you're the problem, Mark. I hate these Washington people coming into Missouri. They never are up to any good. They're always awful. I think we should build a wall in the Mississippi. Really, if we'd have shot General Lyon in the river when he tried to cross at Alton, we'd have been way better off. You're part of this group, the Federalist people?
Federalist Society.
Yeah, yes. It seems like a pack of assholes. Why don't they stay in Washington? Why do they come here?
Well,
and how do we get you people the hell out?
We have local chapters. I mean, I started. I was the president of the Mizzou Law School.
Do they ever give a damn what the local chapters think?
Not anymore. Not as much as they did in the old days.
You do a little work for Andrew Bailey, right?
Yeah.
I assume you're voting for Andrew Bailey.
Absolutely. 100%.
You founded the Federalist Society chapter. Do they give a shit what you think?
The national ones do not care.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you should change it and make it like the Kelton Society or something. The Kelton Caucus would be better. Why do these people, why don't they run Washington? Seems like Washington, you could do a lot better with that town and city. Why don't they run New York? Why do they, it's like termites. They're like a disease that infests places.
So they have this theory that they can put the proper people into, particularly attorney general's offices. They like attorney generals.
They want people that went to Ivy League schools.
And you know, Josh Hawley was supported heavily by them.
Ivy League school.
Yeah. And now, you know, Will Scharf is being heavily supported.
Do they just hate veterans? Is that what it is? They hate Mizzou people?
I don't know if they hate Mizzou people. They certainly love Ivy League people, and they love the East Coast.
Is there any pack of assholes worse than the Ivy League people?
I can't think of anything worse than somebody coming from Harvard.
I just never liked. Well, John Doolittle, and I used to get said I never liked him in Harvard.
That's true.
Doolittle's a good dude. He's from Albany, Missouri. You know, he's all right. But so how does this work? They just get in a room out in Washington and like, oh, this person went to Ivy League school, so he's better than the look down on those poor assholes in the flyover country.
And what they're trying to do, I think, is to build a group of attorneys generals around this country that then they can move into a federal administration or into the courts and have that concept, that federalism
Bailey filed
concept.
Every idiotic lawsuit there is to file. Is there any stupid lawsuits these East Coast people want he hadn't filed?
Oh, I mean, I think the East Coast people don't care who files lawsuits. They want their kind. It's,
yeah, they want them.
Who do you want to sit at the table with?
When they drink out their stuff, they put their pinky out.
Yeah. Oh. They want to sit in the room and look around each other and go, here's my good friend. We all went to school together. Remember we did the chant or whatever that kind of stuff is.
We rooted for the Red Sox.
Oh, God, that's painful.
Bad asshole.
If you're not supporting the Cardinals, you shouldn't be in the state.
Always, too.
Always.
Really don't. I don't think we need newcomers. We have all the fans we need. We do need a different manager, although they are playing better.
They are playing better.
And I'm happy to see it. Look, to me, I look at that team, and that team's going to have a magical run to win a post. I mean, I don't see how you take that piece of paper for a 3-game series, and you say we stack up with anybody else. I just don't see it.
Except suddenly there's pitching, and it looks good. Starting pitching looks really good.
But Sonny Gray's been great.
Oh, he's been amazing.
Kyle Gibson's been
the other night.
The 3 signings. I mean, look, I'm not a Mozeliak hater. I think Mozeliak is trying to. He's like a rip-off Ivy League person now. He doesn't wear socks and he dresses like a weirdo. I think Mozeliak is a rip-off trying to. I think he's new money and he smells like it. But he has had a good run. He has had a successful run as GM. And look, these 3 signings. Argue with him.
And Michaelis is pitching better now. Finally, I mean he's had some tough times.
Look, that contract wasn't a good. That extension was not a good extension in my opinion. The numbers certainly don't bear it out right now. But okay, if he's your number 4 starter, you can live with that.
Yeah, but you have to have good starting pitching to be in the playoffs. You have to have it. And right now they have good starting pitching.
And the lights out closer.
Yeah,
Helsley does it. Helsley's ERA's into the 2s because he had 2 bad games. But I mean, if you just look at the body of work, Helsley's been outstanding.
Their middle relief is really hard to watch. So really hard.
Kittredge has been overall good, but it's hit and miss.
He throws the ball that goes deep, and JoJo Romero can't put a ball across the plate. It's a great combination.
I always felt like Romero was living on borrowed time. He is the guy that would have made a lot of money. And when you could bring in one guy to face a lefty.
Yeah.
I just don't know that he's living on borrowed time throwing that ball to right-handed hitters.
Yeah. No, and I think that's if they're going to go out and do something to fix it, that's one of the things they're going to have to go out and fix. They got to find somebody who can come in the 6th or 7th inning and shut the door and allow Helsley to get on the mound and close it.
What I like that Marmol's done, and I think it's indicative of if you start looking at the lineups when he got ejected and they were 9 games under and they turned that game around in Milwaukee. They're not relying on Arenado and Goldschmidt. They have realized they've come to the terms of the fact that in a lineup, they are not your 2 best hitters. Right. Burleson's your best hitter right now. Donovan's hitting well. Contreras is probably your best hitter now that he's back. They've come to terms with the fact that this team will not rise and fall with Goldschmidt and Arenado. And if it has to, it's going to fall.
Yeah, and they're running. They're on the base paths. They're running, which in the past was not how it was designed. I mean, they would sit there and have Goldschmidt and Arenado try to tee off on the 400-foot bomb, but a little different now.
Appreciate y'all's text. You can text me anytime. We have somebody text me, Jared, could you go get some of the boxes that they stacked up in front of the front door? But then I got texted, what did Trump get convicted of?
So what he got convicted of in New York, which is the only case that's gone to trial, and he's been convicted of 34 counts of basically fraudulently doctoring documents to cover up a supposed federal campaign violation that the feds don't think is a campaign violation, to get to be a felony, because if you didn't have the federal violation, you couldn't be a felony. You'd only be a misdemeanor, and the statute of limitations would have run. You notice how convoluted it is?
Yeah,
That's the problem.
it's just
That's the problem.
it
It's
looks
convoluted.
like it looks like some old boys. They're like, we don't get that some bitch.
Yeah.
And then they said, hey, get you some books and find out something he's done. Let's get him, which happens a lot.
Show me the man.
In
I'll show you
Missouri
the
and
crime.
Manhattan.
Show me the man. I'll show you the crime.
Yep.
Is what Beria said when he was Scotland's secret police chief.
And look, I think Donald Trump's a lying scumbag. I trust me. If I wouldn't buy a tractor from him, the Jews, and I wouldn't let him date my sister. But I think they screwed him. I think they just got together and said, we're just gonna put you in prison. We're gonna do what we can do to put you in prison.
They're out there doing the victory lap about the high fives of look at us, look what we're able to do.
Yeah.
And I think this judge is going to sentence him. My personal opinion is going to sentence him to a bunch of years in prison so that he can go on the cocktail circuit in New York City and go, I'm the guy who sentenced Donald Trump to jail.
And there'll be a lot of folks like that. I mean, it reminds me about the old song Fancy by Reba McEntire, where, he slapped the sheriff on the back with a smile and said, supper's waiting at home and I got to get to it. It happens in our area too, just as much. And I try my best to speak up when it's happening, because there's a lot of times they're just saying, we're going to get that old boy. Yeah. And they're going to get him. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. And it just happens to be Donald Trump is damn hard to kill.
And when the weight of government decides it's going to come down upon you, there's not much you can do about it to stop it. Trump's kind of unique. I mean, he's got such a personality and a following that even though the weight of government's gone after him in a courtroom, he may still win the election. We're going to vote for him because he's better than the option. And I think that's really important is, he was going to win an election because, in part, Democrats decided to weaponize the justice system against him.
It feels right to me what you're saying. It feels wrong, and it feels like it. And I bet you if there's a black guy watching us right now, he's like, "Ha, you just now figured this out." But to me, I don't trust the government. I don't give a damn what you do. If you work for the government, I don't trust you. Speaking of the government, who's going to run the state government? I know you work for the Keogh campaign. Give me your breakdown on where the campaign's at.
I think the Keogh campaign is surging. The public poll that's out there shows him having basically tied Ashcroft. Ashcroft's not moving. He's not getting any new voters. Keogh is surging. I think that race comes down to Keogh's. I mean, it's possible a walk-away win, but I think Keogh wins that race.
I've just found these races, they consistently break late and they break hard. I don't think this will be a 1 or 2 point race. I think this race will be decided by 8 or 10 points.
I agree.
And it'll poll tight. And here's the thing about polling. It's not the polling is wrong right now. If you poll this race and see half the electorate undecided, that's just the snapshot of today. That's not saying where the race will be after another $20 million is spent.
And the thing about polling is don't look at where it's at today. Look at where it was at 2 weeks ago, last week, this week.
See, that's the key for Keogh. He's got momentum. The question is he peaking too early?
No. Absentee voting started yesterday.
What percentage of Republican primary was absentee?
But we're in the window now where people start voting, and you're in the sprint. I mean, it's less than 6 weeks to election day. If Mike Keogh's not
governor, I think it'll be peaked too early. If he loses, I think that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I mean, look, here's the thing. I saw the cavalry arrive for Bill Eigel. Other people in your profession showed up with $500,000. I believe if Randy Tobin or Stephanie Bell's listening, I predicted this 2 weeks ago on the radio. There'd be $500,000 in attorney money go to Eigel.
It was no surprise that was going to come. I mean, the trial lawyers have been supporting. Me
guessing the number right on is pretty impressive. I mean, let's just be honest.
Stein of knowledge.
For reals.
Chalice of knowledge.
Chalice in there. See, I got booted. The boot kicks back up. You got to plan for that. I got to do the turn. If you ever watched that beer show, you'd know. But I do think, Ashcroft losing a 30-point lead is one thing. A lot of that was name ID and was going to, wasn't his fault. But the fact that he's having such a hard time raising money, why? He has polling that would show he wins. He's got name ID. Why?
Because all he's got is name ID. It's his dad. I mean, I thought the ad that his dad did for him was a very good ad, but it was his dad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Jay. Jay's not campaigning for governor. He's campaigning as I'm my dad's son. And that's why it's hard to raise money. It's easy to raise money when You're dynamic. You're talking about your vision of the future, what you're going to do. You've got a track record of what you've done and how you're going to move it forward. The Kehoe model, that's easy to raise money for, because people see what you've done and they buy in and they want more of it. When your campaign is, it's my last name, how does that really motivate a lot of people? Go, that's the guy I want to put a big check behind.
I think people write checks to folks that think can win.
And I think
there was a way. There's something like, I think the Kehoe campaign, if they're unsuccessful, they peaked too early. I think if you're the Ashcroft campaign and you're unsuccessful, you're going to look back on that year where you had credible polling showing you up 20, 30 points, and you weren't able to get checks from folks that wanted to back the winner.
Yeah, you had to be knocking on doors and getting money the whole time when you were way up.
And that check,
it's too late now.
I think that check so much. If you didn't get the check from a guy when you're up 30, why would you get the check from a guy when it's a margin of error race?
Yeah.
That's the part
the trend's the wrong way. Anybody who's savvy enough to write you a big check is savvy enough to look at the trending polls and go, why would I back a loser
today? But why didn't a year ago you say, hey, I'm going to get on the ground floor with this guy that's going to win. Let me throw you a $50,000 check and I'll be your guy.
I don't represent Jay, so I don't know, but I would assume that's because they didn't go out and make the asks, because that's the key. Money doesn't grow on trees.
That's a fact.
You got to shake it.
Yeah.
And
Jay really, even when you're in for state senate, he's never been a prolific fundraiser.
Right.
It's just never been one of his talents in his bailiwick. I will say he's got better on the stump.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten significantly better there. Bill Eigel. I think that the folks of this state want to buy what Bill Eigel has to sell. They just don't know he's selling it.
I think there's a segment of people in the state that want what Bill Eigel has to sell. I think that
it's a pretty big segment if they ever figure out what he's selling.
I think it's a hard message to get out. I think there is a trend where
hard message. It's like, I'm gonna cut your taxes to nothing and give you everything and burn everybody down. It's an easy message to tell folks, and frankly, Missouri voters have proven they'll buy it.
I don't think they buy, I'm going to cut your taxes and shut down government and burn everything down. I don't think they're going to buy that. I think they want, I think we've seen a trend now with the divisiveness on the Republican side and the internecine wars that continue to go on, that I think there's a lot of Republican voters now that really want, let's govern. We got problems, let's fix them. And put people in that'll fix problems. And, the best example of that, it's too bad the race didn't shake out this way. It would have been an ideal race, would have been Bill Eigel against Lincoln Huff. Because you would have the absolutely diametrically opposed options there.
Fix or complain about it.
Fix or complain. Fix or stop. Do nothing. Or go out there and make hard decisions and try to do things.
So, to me, if you look at the Bill Eigel campaign, if he's unsuccessful, it'll be I think, because that message will just burn everything down. I'm the only honest man in the state. Everybody else is out to screw you. That's not a message a thinking person that has disposable money to write you that big check wants to write you. Now, if you're a trial attorney, you say, hey, we're going to make sure that you can sue everybody all the time, and we're going to have judges that'll have the same philosophy. Okay, you can sell that. It's so funny what the difference of conservative. And now that everybody's conservative, no one's a conservative. It's all warped into every nook and cranny of the ideology. If Kehoe wins, why will he win?
Kehoe will win because he has a better message, better organization, and ultimately more money.
Yeah, I think that last part. I think if Kehoe wins, it's because that son of a gun has went to this state and to Sykeston and to Grant City and to Rockport so many times. And he's just won them over.
And I know you've said this before, but it's something that people haven't seen it in person. They don't understand. Mike will go in a room and there'll be 4 people in the room and he can glad hand and talk to all of them. And he'll come back 2 weeks later and every one of those 4 people in the room will be 40 or 50 people. You've got to see Mike. And he gets these huge crowds in places that
don't have huge crowds. Yeah. You having to drive an hour. I think that he has ignited a group of people in this state. I don't think it's the prevailing sentiment of this state, what you said. I disagree with you about that. I think Mike Kehoe has attached that fixed problem things to a person and they believe in him. I don't think this is an idea. I think the people showing up and writing him these checks believe in Mike Kehoe.
Oh, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
That's the period, full stop.
But I think they also like the fact that we get roads built and that, things actually get done as opposed to all they hear is no, 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 no.
If Bill Eigel wins, I think it's because he was able to capture the Eric Greitens thing of burn it down. I don't care. Yeah. I'll make you feel good about it. And I think if he'll get the money to get that back, which I still think his message. I think more people want to hear that message than you.
If he's got a big enough war chest and he can get his message out, he could potentially win that race.
Jay Ashcroft, how does he win that race?
Go out and find somebody to write him $2 or $3 or $4 million check and run ads.
Yeah,
there's no really no other option for him at this point. He needs to blanket the airwaves with his message, and remind people,
or have his dad do it.
But in the end, they got to vote for Jay.
The AG race. Are your friends just going to buy the race?
Your
friend's hacking into our thing.
And money keeps flowing in from the East Coast. I think it's really 2 days. Really disappointing to see that occurring. They're going to try to buy.
Do you have
they're
meetings
try to
with
buy,
these people?
They're going to try to buy an election.
Does the Jeff City folks have meetings with these people?
No, we go to meetings once in a while, but we get told what they're doing on a national level. We don't get asked what they should do on a national level. And they did this debate the other night up in St. Louis where nobody showed up. Yeah. I mean, if there's not a better example of out of touch with Missouri, doing a debate at the Ritz-Carlton in St. Louis County.
And I heard that little Elab, which I like Elab. He's a hustling little son of a gun. I got a regard for him. I really do. He out there, I heard he had his people just pack the damn thing.
It's an interesting dynamic.
I'd like to be the manager of the Ritz-Carlton.
But they required everybody be in like business attire for that, which I thought was interesting. But then again, at the Ritz-Carlton, what do you expect?
People. I've been to the Ritz-Carlton many times, and every damn time I've been in blue jeans.
I don't like the fact that DC is trying to buy Missouri. I don't like that.
But here's the thing: I don't think Missouri cares.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they never.
I don't know that Missouri knows. I don't know that Missouri knows.
San Francisco elected Eric Greitens, and nobody cares.
I don't think Missouri knows.
They don't know
that DC is trying to buy.
I bet you if they did know, they wouldn't care.
I don't know about that. I think Missouri pride runs pretty deep, and when you get told,
I love he's so optimistic. I love it.
These guys from New York and DC and the Ivy League are going to come in and tell you who you need to put in office because they're just smarter than you are. I think that riles people. That's riles people up pretty good.
It ought to. Speaking of folks, we have an event to go to tomorrow night. Stephanie Bell's debate party at the at Lakeside Ashland. I'm gonna go. The popcorn machine there. Like I've tried to tell Mark yesterday about this popcorn machine. It's all you can eat popcorn in the bucket. It's put in a wall outside. So you buy the bucket. It's so great. Then you go down about 10 feet to the side on the wall, and it's the popcorn comes into your bucket as much as you want. Which is for me, that's a selling point. And then you go right beside it's got 2 butter dispensers, so you can load that butter up. It is the best popcorn machine I've ever seen in my life.
Popcorn's only good if it's loaded with butter.
Yeah, and you can decide. You can shake. You know how you do. You leave a little about an inch at the top. Mm-hmm. So you put the butter on the top, then you kind of shake it up a little bit, and you get a little room so it spill. Then you can do the butter. You gotta get the sides. It's endless. It's bottomless bucket of popcorn and endless butter. It is the best popcorn machine ever. I'll probably watch part of the debate, but I don't care that much. I'm going with the popcorn machine, and because Stephanie, I'm going to tell you right now, let me just tell you, his law partner, Stephanie Bell, she's the host of Wake Up Mid Missouri. Let me just give you a piece of it. Missouri, listen to me. If you want to be on Stephanie's good side, find your way to Lakeside Ashland tomorrow, take a picture, tag her on the internet, and if you want to be on her shit list, which is not the place to be in life, I can tell you personally, don't show up tomorrow. But if you know what's good for you, Missouri, listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. You get your ass to Lakeside Ashland tomorrow night and watch that debate with her. And the popcorn, you're going to text me and be like, well, Faughn, I wasn't going to go, but now they know how pissed she's going to be. If you don't go, you're going to be like, Faughn, that popcorn machine was just as good as advertised. Outstanding.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
All right, give me a prediction on, I want your predictions.
Okay.
Who's going to be the congressman here, from here to St. Charles? Who's going to be congressman?
Kurt Schaefer. Very close.
All right, is that one of your clients?
No.
Okay, not. All right, you're going Kehoe, which to his credit, we've had many beers. He has went Kehoe from the jump before it was fashionable. A year and a half ago, he was going Kehoe. So when I don't think you could credibly have called that race a toss-up until now. Now I think it's a toss-up, and I believe the momentum is the where you want to be.
And I think he has got all the momentum, the momentum in that race.
But I think Eigel could. I think if I'm Kehoe right now, who are you more worried about? You more worried about Ashcroft just kind of fading, or you?
You have to be worried about Ashcroft just because the name ID can make a difference.
And two, don't you think when the bullets fly, some older folks are gonna be like, okay, they're all bad. I'll just vote for the name I know.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think that's why you still have to pay attention to Ashcroft. Look, I think there's a real possibility Eigel gets second in that race.
I do too.
I mean, I think he has the ability to surge up and take votes away from Jay.
As much as you and I know Mike Kehoe, and I have an honest regard for him, there are attacks that you could make on his record that Republican primary voters might be sympathetic to. He has, and no one has hit him yet. He has not had a sustained good amount of media points behind it.
But so you take, Eigel has to get his name out.
Yes.
So
no one knows.
He's going to have a very hard time hitting Mike Kehoe because he's not going to have enough money to get his name out and hit Mike Kehoe.
Well, he's going to do it the same ad. I tell you what I think.
Those ads are not as effective, I think, as people think.
Can you find that Spider-Man graphic where there's there's this graphic I've seen on Twitter where there's 3 people dressed as Spider-Man all pointing at each other, right? And a 3-way race to me so often breaks down where if you're Bill Eigel and you're going to sleep tonight, you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I'm gonna have Jay come in, and he's gonna hit Kehoe, and then I'm gonna do my thing, and Ashcroft's like, thank God Bill Eigel's got that money from the trailers. He's gonna hit Kehoe, and then I'll slide in, and they sit there like the Spider-Man thing, all pointing at each other. You're gonna do it, and nobody does it.
Yeah.
Or they do it. They'll produce ads. They'll put them on Facebook and YouTube, but they won't put 500 points behind them in a market.
I think they're more likely to attack each other because I think Ashcroft would be worried that Eigel will take his last-minute voters away, and Eigel will figure that his best option to pick up votes is to take them from Jay.
And see, I think David Barklage, it sounded self-serving, but I think he was right. I think if you're Eigel and you game this out, if you're at the state fair and you're driving down, you're gaming out, what could I have done different? I think they thought Barklage was messing with him for his own benefit, which, if you know David, he very well may have been. David's a damn genius. Who knows? I think they probably should have torn to Jay earlier. And make it and try to make it a 2-person race. I almost think that they had to, if Eigel had a thought, if I tear Jay down and get ahead of him, then the money will come and my message will outpace Kehoe. I think that might have been a viable strategy in hindsight. I just don't think people wouldn't have predicted Ashcroft's lead might have been as soft as it was.
Kehoe would have a hard time beating either Jay or Eigel in a straight up heads up primary.
I agree with you.
He might still won. Don't get me wrong. He's got a great message and a lot of money.
This is a better matchup.
But it would have been. But the 3-way works out perfectly for him.
Who's going to Lieutenant Governor?
Lincoln Huff.
Got a lot of money.
Yep.
I think Holly Rader's working on a surprise. I think she's working on pulling something out of her back pocket.
She's got people.
Capable person.
She's been a good senator. She's
I
like her. She's a great person. She doesn't have a lot of money right now. She got a big cash infusion that would make a difference.
I think she's going to get a cash infusion. I don't think it's going to be on the level of a Scharfer Eigel. I think it's going to be 100,000 or so. Maybe.
And that's not enough.
I think that feels right. So you're going to Lincoln. You go Manhattan or Missouri going to win?
Missouri.
Missouri's going to win the AG.
Always Missouri.
Well, not always. 2016, San Francisco won. Treasurer.
I think Vivek probably wins that. He's got so much money. He's got the incumbency, and I'm really surprised that nobody else has gotten substantive traction.
Are you surprised that he's been? I've got a couple mailers from him, good quality pieces. Are you surprised he's putting his picture on?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I respect it, but I think if Vivek loses, you could have said you're Vic Malik.
He can't walk away from his name.
If you're Vic Malik, I don't think anybody thinks Vivek is a unique name. I respect him that he leaned into it.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wins this race, he'll have earned it because he definitely leaned in.
And a lot of Republicans, also remember the other Vivek, Ramaswamy, and have somewhat positive views of him.
Really like. He seems like a clown.
But it doesn't hurt.
I agree. So we have a credible presidential candidate that's Indian American, I think helps. Do you think? Will that be an indication that Missourians maybe aren't as bad as folks that want to make them out to be?
Yeah, I think that would be a good indication.
I'm kind of with you. I'm with you on that.
I think he pulls that one out.
I think he wins not because of it, but it doesn't hurt him because he has all that money.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of how. Now, there's one other Secretary of State. You got any kin in that race?
I would do some work with Dean Blocker.
Well, I mean, and you almost have to be related to one of them. There's so damn many of them. What do you think of Gomez, the Hispanic gal?
I think you should have her on your show. I mean, she would be a riot,
Randy Tobler, he was carrying the plow. I texted him. I felt sorry for him. She would I felt like he was the Iron Dome and she was Hezbollah and just firing rockets of crazy statements. And he was trying to swat them down.
She has mastered the art of crazy.
All right. Who's going to the Senate primaries? Chris Finelli, Snelting?
I think Chris Finelli pulls that one out.
What about you're a Mizzou guy? Are you for the Mizzou made Curtis Gregory? Or are you Ritchie?
I'm a Curtis Gregory fan all the way back to when he played football.
And the other one, you for Cindy's person, Travis Smithy for Brett Hudson.
I think Travis probably gets that. That's an interesting race. That's a really interesting race to watch.
I think Cindy will win that race in Southern Missouri. I think Phil should win in St. Charles, be a big win for Cindy O'Loughlin. Then I think Doug Ritchie's a very talented politician.
Yes, he is.
And Curtis Gregory cannot take him lightly. So I could see Cindy losing that one maybe. He's going to have to – I mean, look, I'll tell you this.
That's a rural suburban split district. It's interesting because it, you know –
well, you have
that one edge has got that
candidate. And then, I mean, in Ritchie, you have the pro-Cindy candidate. I think some folks are trying to fool Cindy. Cindy's no fool. Cindy, you ain't going to snow Cindy O'Loughlin.
Yeah.
She's savvy. She knows what's up. And Curtis will have the money advantage, the geography, maybe a smidge to Ritchie. But I'm going to tell you, Flagship Council, Missouri, please listen to me. If you don't elect Curtis Gregory, just take the flag down. There should be no ship council. You're done. The next time you have one of those screwball things and you don't have a Kurt Schaefer or Caleb Brown to protect you, let's say it was student uprising. Let's say Troy leaves. You hire some flake to be president. If you don't have Curtis Gregory there defending your blind side, you're screwed. And even though Cliff's gone, it'll be what would make the new president at Missouri State. I think starts today maybe. It'll be like the biggest thing for him will be that. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't have an advocate for the University of Missouri in today's environment that's in the Senate, you can get left on the chopping floor pretty quick.
Mark Ellinger, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks.
I sure enjoyed
Really
it. We'll have to
appreciate
pick this up over a beer later. We will be with you Sunday for This Week in Missouri Politics. Cindy, Buckeye, Courtway Joyce, and Phil Cristofanelli talk some Senate races. We may even get Kehoe on. I think we may go over to Bob Brinkman's barn he refurbished. Got an event there tomorrow. We may tape him there. It's going to be kind of neat.
I want to see the RV. I want to sign it.
You haven't signed it yet?
Haven't signed the RV yet.
You're cashing checks with a signature on it. You ain't put your name on it. I will say at the Cattleman deal, my kids thought it was cool. They get to ride on the van. And so Gussie was going to sign it, but he decided he just color stuff on it. He started coloring stuff in. We had to shoo him off. The bus is cool. Join us Sunday for This Week in Missouri Politics. Mark Ludger, thank you so much. When are you doing radio next?
Tuesday. July 2nd.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And finally, I love to wake up and in the morning hear the name of the state pronounced correctly. Why can't you get Stephanie and those radio people in Columbia to do it right?
Because they're in Columbia. What do you expect?